start.
All right.
Okay. So I have Chris Mills here. He is one of the assistant principals at Springville High School. So Chris, which obviously I've known him for a long time, will you give me just a little bit of background about your um, education, job experience, everywhere you've been?
Sure. I just finished my 19th year in Alabama in education. I got into it like a lot of guys, coaching for a lot of years, and got my instructional leadership degree from Sanford in 2013, I believe. And then it was several years after that before I actually got my first admin job. Was an administrator, was an assistant principal at Clair County High School for a year and a half. Just really missed coaching and got back into coaching for several years. And then this will be my third year back on the administrative side here at Springville High School. I've been in the Birmingham area this will be my 16th year in this area, various schools. And as coaches do, we bounce around a lot. But I guess that's kind of the quick version. 19 years, a whole lot of schools. I was in the classroom for a while. I taught just about every grade of history. I was a PE coach for a little while. I taught health for a couple of years, 2 or 3 in there. So I guess that's kind of the quick version.
Okay. So since you're at Springville now, I guess what's your compare and contrast between there and being at Clay? Because Springville, which I live in Springville, but it's a more rural area, kind of, well, I would say really on the outskirts, whereas Clay Tropical is a county school. Obviously it's in Clay, but it's within like greater Birmingham. So what's been the biggest difference you've seen?
Well, oddly enough, our 2 feeder, like we actually touch like the St. Clair County and Jefferson County, where the Clay Chalkville zone is and where Springville is. We actually have some overlapping neighborhoods, and it's
Okay.
so. But obviously, Clay Chalkville High School is roughly 1,500 kids. Okay, in 9 through 12, Springville High School, we're half that. We're probably 720 to 740. Don't know exactly where our numbers are yet this year. It's very interesting, to have those 2 systems and feeder pattern areas so close together, but yet very, very different when you walk the halls. Springville, we are, from a we're extremely diverse socioeconomics. Okay, we are.
Yeah.
We've got neighborhoods here in Springville that are very affluent, and parents, do really, really well, and all the way down to, government subsidized housing, so, we deal with, we're not a very racially diverse school. We're probably about 85% white, and then probably a 15%, roughly, all minorities put together. So, and that's very different from Clay Chalkville, which was, flipped, and it was probably about 90% minority and 10% probably white at that point. So, yeah, a lot of difference. But to me, the biggest difference between those two, just the sheer size and magnitude of a school with 1,500 kids as opposed to 700, where at Clay Chalkville, I was one of 4 assistant principals or 3 assistant principals and a principal. And we're here, there's a principal and there's me. So
Yeah.
That, I guess those are some of the biggest differences.
Okay. So obviously demographics are different, size is different. What's been some of the different things you've seen with, like, I guess, community involvement? How does that, which I don't know a ton, I probably know more just from my husband Sean being at Clay, a little bit about the community involvement, but I'm not as familiar as much with Springville. So what's as an assistant principal, what's some things that you kind of want to see with community involvement, and what's your role play in that aspect?
So, Springville still has a very small town feel. There's the cute little downtown area. There's shops and restaurants. It's very conveniently located with two direct exits onto the interstate, and with a lot of commerce in that area. So you've got a very small town city feel.
Yeah.
Obviously local politics play a lot into what goes on around
Mhm.
here. And from an administrator standpoint with our community, we deal with multiple vendors, throughout week to week and month to month. Whether it's feeding our faculty from local restaurants, or one of the city council members will come to school to check in, to talk, to see how they can help. We we have the communication here. I believe, I guess it can be good and bad. Social media has just turned into such a huge part of how everyone communicates, but especially in the high school setting, because
Yeah.
in the past you could send out the actual, call outs where people's phone would ring and you would answer and there'd be a message on it.
Yeah.
And we still use that from time to time, but it is by far not the fastest way to get
Yeah.
information out to people. Here at Springville, we have multiple social media, pages, whether it's our yearbook, whether we have a specific Springville High School, Instagram and Facebook, that sends things out, but we have
Okay.
a yearbook when we have, our choirs use it, things like that. So it is normally like that's usually the quickest way we can get information out.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this, being up here in the summer, there's still a whole lot of old school people that just pick up the phone and call the school. And
Yeah.
it's the only place I've ever been in my life where people will just call and nobody answers, and they'll call again and they'll call again
Wow.
and they'll call again. And sometimes for me, in the summertime, there's not a lot of people here.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just wait them out. Like, you know what? I can watch it ring as many times as you. I'm just kidding. Uh, but no, there's still just a lot of people that are just very old school, and will just
Yeah.
call the school to ask a question. And there's something very refreshing about that,
Yeah, I
just
would
to be able
agree.
to either, number one, answer the question directly, or hey, I'll take your name and number down. My counselor handles this for you. I'll have her call you back.
Right.
So
Yeah. Okay. Um, how do you empower like students, staff, coworkers, to kind of take ownership of the school vision that you all have?
here at Springville, we had a principal here for 5 years. His name was Dr. Gregory Moore. He actually just took the Auburn High School job this summer, and he he took it was actually it's called the Tiger Code, and it was written by someone prior to him, and it was a poster stuck on a wall somewhere that nobody used, nobody messed with it really. And he took that, and he made that our vision every day. And so what we were able to do, and he's presented all over the state and country do it. I actually just got back from the mega conference this year presenting about the Tiger Code myself. We have we have lanyards and wristbands, and we have Tiger Code belts, and we have the Tiger Code tiara. And it was just a way to take, and it's an acronym: truth, integrity, generosity, encouragement, respect, and to kind of take those 5 core values that we have in our school, and every year reinvent, and or not reinvent but repackage, and the poster looks a little bit different. We got some different swag this year. It's a different belt this year. Uh, but it's every day. It's in the morning announcements. We're going to adhere to our Tiger Code. We're going to lock down our academics. They can recite that from our announcements every day, because we say it every single day. We would stand out in the hallways with lanyards, or with just pens and pencils with Tiger Code on it, and just pick random kids. Hey, can you recite the Tiger Code? If they could do it, here, grab you something out of your swag bag. So it is something that I learned from him, that culture driving is every day. Culture driving is
Yeah.
not kids know if it's a gimmick. If you're just
That,
throwing something on a poster saying this is what we're going to go by, this is going to be our core values, but the leaders in the building are not living it and breathing it and driving it every single day, it'll die. And so that I am blessed to be able to first of all have learned so much about that from Dr. Moore, but then get to just see firsthand how these administrators, how leaders in the buildings drive that culture, and that it's got to be, there are no off days, and that's hard sometimes. That's hard to leave what's going on outside the building because the kids in our building had nothing to do with that. And maybe you're not on 100 every day, but walking in a building and being excited, being enthusiastic, talking to kids, finding a way to just make that touch every day with a handful of kids, and find that kid. Just a perfect example. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but right before school got out, there's a place I stand every morning and talk to kids, and a girl walked by me, and because I'd seen her every morning for months and months and months. And she walked by me this one particular morning, and her face was different. And I was able to just put, "Hey, are you okay?" And she didn't want to
yeah,
talk about it, but she said, "Thank you for noticing. And I'll come talk to you later." And I just think it was that was just the testament to being visible every single day, and me being able to notice a girl. She's not in the band, she's not in the choir, she doesn't play sports, she doesn't do anything, she's just a regular student, but I was able to notice that something was wrong. And I really think those little things are what truly drives culture in a building, because these kids, and it's the same with teachers, they know that I'm Coach Mills, and I'm gonna be in those hallways, and we care about you.
right. So what are some, you kind of talked about it earlier, like, obviously Springville is small, ours is more rural, there's a very small community feel. What are some unique challenges you feel schools like Springville face that other ones don't?
Okay, so one jumps out. This school's had 5 principals in 60 years. Okay, so there not a lot of turnover, where that's concerned. And it's not, I'm not saying it's all the way a challenge, but we have, this is my third as an administrator and fourth in the building. There's definitely a lot of that. This is the way it's always been done. And you have to navigate that, because you're in a place where you have a long-standing tradition of certain things, and you can't just come in bull in a china shop,
Yeah.
wrecking all that stuff. You have to tiptoe sometimes. You have to navigate. And me personally, something I've learned in the last couple of years, you got to sit back and listen, and you got to hear where the community's coming from, and why
Right.
some of these things are so important, and why they mean so much to some people. And it may sound completely stupid to me, but for people in this community, there are certain things and certain traditions and things that go on that are just important to the people, and that's where we have to be flexible, and adapt to that. I mean, I hear that there was the principal, his name was Dr. Harris, was here for 16 years as the principal, and he retired in 2014. We still have 8 or 10, 12 teachers in our building that were here then, worked for him. And, there's a lot of, well, I remember when Dr. Harris did it like this. And I remember Dr. Harris saying this, and oh, Dr. Harris wouldn't have done it like that. And as administrators, it's you kind of have a tendency to take that a little personal sometimes. And I have just learned that, what, that's the way they feel. And Dr. Harris was a fantastic leader, obviously, because they're still talking about him. And hopefully people will be talking about me that way one day.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I know sometimes with smaller schools that are in a rural setting, they struggle with having high teacher turnover, because there's not as much around community wise to basically sustain the educators. But on the flip side, that is good that you bring that up about there being the struggle with being innovative, because you really have to, you can't do the same thing the same way for forever, and you've got to change it at some point. Um, what is your advice, I guess, to other educators or administrators on creating like a collaborative culture between, I would say, teachers, parents, community, local organizations?
Well, I think human nature, we want to be heard. Whether it's, your 5 or 6 year old, or a 50 or 60 year old man, or whoever that might be, we want to be heard. And I hear the word validated a lot, and I go back and forth on what I truly believe about validating feelings, because there's a part of me that feels very strongly that there are some feelings that shouldn't be validated, that need to be corrected. That's probably a different interview. Uh, but, you know, having that open door policy, creating the relationship specifically with teachers and with some in the community, is creating that relationship where people feel like, number one, they can approach us as leaders, and whether that is for a question or a concern or a praise or anything on that spectrum, that conversation that they may want to have, that you balance that open door policy with you are the leader, and you are a boss, and you want people to come in and express concerns and talk and allow them to speak, and in some cases implement. Hey, that's a great idea. Hey, I haven't thought of it that way. And sometimes you may even say, I haven't thought of it that way, but we're probably still not going to do it. I mean, it just is what it is. But I do think that all of that, it starts with building the relationship in your building first, and then growing out from there, because that's students, that's teachers, and then you work out into your community, and being approachable, but not a pushover. So
Right. That's, yeah, that's a balance. I think a lot of educators have to learn, like being approachable, not being
yeah,
a pushover. How do you balance immediate needs with long-term needs? Like, I guess within, whether it be administration, community's immediate needs, or even like a teacher coming to you with an immediate need versus a long-term need. Or sometimes I, as a teacher, might think that something is immediate, or okay, buddy. How do you balance, I guess, me feeling like there's an immediate need, but you thinking that it's a long-term need or a long-term goal? How do you, I guess,
you
pivot
know
or address
the
that?
the the longer we and I'll just speak personally, the longer I sit in this leadership seat, the more comfortable I have become with decision making, and more comfortable I have become that sometimes it's the wrong decision,
Yeah,
and that me and my growth as a leader, I have I have just moved more toward the mindset of, in most cases, you have to put a foot forward. You have to make a decision. We have to go do something. We have to act. I'm not a sit on my hands person and wait. I mean, there is a balance on, hey, I need a day to think about that, or whatever. But there are times in a building, whether it be a discipline issue, or some of them are easy. The roof's leaking. Okay, well, guess that that's an immediate need. We gotta get that taken care of. But some aren't. Some are, where it's, um, an example of maybe there's a teacher that is having a really hard time with a specific student or a specific group of students,
yeah,
and to that teacher, that's an immediate need. You know, but sometimes sitting in our seat, it's something that we've got to let play out a little bit more, or we've got to, from a leadership role, hey, I need this teacher to work through this on her own a little bit, or his own, to maybe learn a strategy on their own, whether it's a behavior strategy, whether it's a different way to teach a lesson. And here's the other thing. I've been in a high school or middle school setting my entire career. So like, I don't even know what that looks like in an elementary school, where you're with the same, because here's the other thing for us, we're on an 8-period day. You know what, if there's an issue, in 30 minutes, that bell's going to ring and we're going to go to the next class. So we kind of get a natural break. And I was having this conversation with another administrator earlier this week about, like, I think that's why I think elementary teachers are rock stars, because you don't get to get rid of them. Whatever's going on, like you got them all day. So, but I don't know. I think it is. I was reading a book for a class, and the title of it is leaving me right now, but it was all about the art of decision making, and how the only way we get better at making decisions and processing information is to do it. We can read every book, we can get all the information, but you're never going to be comfortable making decisions until you're in those positions where, you know what, hey, let's go with this and see what happens, and if not, we'll adjust. And me becoming more comfortable with that concept, that, sometimes I'm going to be wrong. Sometimes what I decided was not the best idea. I'm okay with that. As long as kids are safe, teachers are safe, and, we're not putting anybody in danger, most everything else we can adjust and do something different next time.
Right. Are there any initiatives that, I guess, since you've been at Springville, that you've seen either Dr. Moore start, or anything that community-wise, any initiatives that you've seen be implemented well, or I guess on the flip side, that have been implemented poorly? And what would you, I guess, change about any of those?
I'm going to show you something. Good that you asked that. So I come back to our Tiger Code thing, and last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, was the first time we went around to businesses in Springville and asked them if they would put a Tiger Codes poster in their business, just to get it outside of our building. And we ended up with quite a few. And then we had these plaques made for all those businesses that put the Tiger Code in their business. And here in a few weeks, we're going to go around to all those businesses and present them with these plaques, basically as being a Tiger Code business here in town. And that's the first time I've ever really seen something like this, where a true culture-driven piece in the school made its way into the community, like into businesses, into shops, into restaurants, and it was a way parents you literally couldn't get away from it. And I firmly believe that has been one of, our state report card went from an 83 to an 87 to a 90, over the last 3 years. We just had the highest number of qualifying AP scores in school history. Our composite ACT score for our juniors last year was a 19.8, highest it's ever been. Like, and that's from just doing it. That's from the Tiger Code. That's from being a good person, teaching people that we're going to do our best, and we're going to be a good person. So that's been something for us that has been, I think, it's been amazing to watch, amazing to see, to implement that throughout our community.
Yeah. Okay. I guess probably last question, what piece of advice would you give, could be either administrator or teacher or interventionist, anybody coming from, I would say, maybe Trustful to Springville, where that's 7A to 5A, or even, I mean, Clay's a bigger 6A school,
Yep.
with trying to get prepared for some of the differences that you see. Because I guess Clay, as an example, is on the flip side not as diverse racially, but I feel like Springville obviously has that diversity. With
Yep.
the economic status, and but then there's other issues you face, with being smaller, um, the rural feel. What advice would you give if in someone that's taking a jump from going from a bigger, more metropolitan school to something that is rural?
My my personal experience when I became the assistant principal at Clay Chalkville, um, I was the ninth grade assistant principal, so I dealt with all the ninth grade discipline, things like that. I did buses, I did tardies. Like I was drinking through a fire hose every single day, because there was 375 ninth graders. Like that's just one grade there, and it's over half my school, here. So while that definitely had its challenges and difficulties, that experience made this one actually much easier.
Yeah.
And so I guess going from a bigger to smaller, again, this is just my personal experience from the day-to-day operations of what I do. It is, I love what I do every day. I am not drowning in discipline, and it's part of the culture of our school.
Yeah.
But where I'm at, I do anything that's building maintenance, grounds, grass cutting, HVAC, broken window, like all of that. I do all of that stuff here, and I can. I'm able to do that. Whereas sometimes, at a bigger place, one person may not be able to do all that. So I have seen a lot of advantages to being in a smaller place. I can only imagine the if you flipped it and I left here and went to somewhere a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Uh, that there could be some challenges, just sheer numbers wise, number of kids, number of teachers, because and we haven't even talked about really the personalities that you deal with especially with adults,
Yeah.
and how you have to navigate conversations, sometimes tough conversations, and so I guess if somebody was leaving a bigger place to come to a smaller place, they would really need to be prepared for the this is the way it's always been done,
Yeah.
and the well the last guy didn't do it that way, that kind of thing, and being able to talk through that in a respectful way, and navigate that from a, hey, look, I don't take it personal. Like most
Yeah.
of those times, those people are not taking a personal shot at you. It's just all they know.
I know.
Um, so just, I guess, kind of being prepared for that side of it.
Do you like wearing many different hats? I mean, like with all the, so I know some people that's not their personality. They hate that. Other
I
people,
am.
they kind of,
It's really strange. I love my routine. I love getting up at relatively the same time every day, some kind of exercise, quiet time, coffee. I'm off to work, see the kids for a few minutes, do my day at work. Like I do enjoy that broad routine,
yeah,
but I love that my day at work is never the same. It is never the same. It is, whether that means on the discipline side of the things that I handle, whether that means it's a maintenance issue, whether that means I've got to go, handle something up at the football stadium, or if I'm just getting to do some instructional things in a classroom. There are days when it does slow down and I actually get to walk around and pop in classrooms and slow down. And you know what? There are also days where I can shut these two doors to my office and I can take 30 minutes to myself.
Yeah.
And I know teachers don't get that luxury, like we do sometimes. So I enjoy the routine of my day, but I love the fact that there's no monotony in what I do. And as an administrator, that's probably everywhere. It's you can probably see this whiteboard behind me. I stopped doing to-do lists a long time ago because they're pointless, because you come to school and you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, guess what? The rest of the world doesn't care what you want to do, because little Johnny's having a bad day and just said something he shouldn't in class. And, oh, there's a water leak on the football field, where, oh, there's, this, that, and the other. And I only got to number 1 and number 4 today. So I just stopped doing to-do lists, and this is my maintenance list over here. This is stuff that have to get done in my building. You know what? It stays right there and it doesn't stress me out one little bit, because when those guys get here, we'll get to it a little bit here and there. But it's different every day. I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. Let me see if I can go ahead and turn this on.